It's my honor really to spend just a few minutes sharing some thoughts about innovation ecosystems, what that means to Pioneer, and maybe just a couple of stories about how we're innovating today, where we're focusing today, and some new ways we're trying to innovate to share with you, because we're really committed to partnering and collaborating even more in the future than we have in the past. So let me just start with a little background about myself. I grew up on the East Coast. Farming wasn't exactly in my blood at that time, but I came out to California in 1977 to go to grad school at Berkeley. And after the end of that time coming out of grad school, I decided that it'd be more interesting to do something that really changed the world than just learning about the world. And so, for whatever reason, agriculture was what I thought would be worth committing the next, 40 years or so of my life to. And so when I left grad school, I jumped into the ag biotech industry that was really just starting at the time. And so 1982-83 was the beginning of ag biotech. It was a really remarkably disruptive era. And I look back on it, pretty fondly, the work we did, isolating restriction enzymes in the lab. Here we are today, and I can really comfortably think that today is a far more disruptive period for ag innovation than it was in the early 80s. Now we have biology and we have digital together, and that's really, I think, part of what's driving a unique period in innovation, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow. So I came to Pioneer just 3 years ago, and what I've reflected on in the last 3 years is that when someone meets me and doesn't know that I spent most of my life in a small company, they sort of don't appreciate maybe a little bit of the perspectives I bring to partnering with companies. And I've brought to Pioneer, I think, an awareness of the challenge sometimes of being a small company, partnering with a big company, and helping us maybe even be a better collaborator. And we have a very long history, a long legacy of partnering and collaborating already, and we're committed to doing more of that. Before coming here, I worked at a company called Mendel Biotechnology. I was a CEO for about 7 years. We focused on biology, ultimately on biologicals, small molecules to improve yield and crop performance. And I also sit on the board of CIMMYT, the International Center for Maize and Wheat Improvement. And so I feel really fortunate to have had the opportunity to see innovation in many different ways, and really with many different types of customers, many different types of farmers, smallholder farmers, large farmers, and vegetable farmers to large row crop farmers. And it's really been a remarkable opportunity to see all these different aspects of innovation. Now, when you work at the largest seed company in the world, you got to start with the seed. And one of the things we like to say is that it's really all about the promise of the seed. And there's a lot behind that seed, whether it's a corn seed or a wheat seed. For us as a breeding organization, there's been decades of innovation in how we improve the seeds that we sell. And today, not just biology, but there's a lot of data behind the new varieties we develop. And so we can just reflect a minute, I think, on the genomics era, let's say for the past 10 to 12 years. I feel like we've really moved into an era where digital is really the dominant theme at a lot of the meetings I go to. But genomics is still a driver for innovation at a company like ours. And if you think back just, 2009, the first corn genome was sequenced. It was a 5-year project, multi-million-dollar project, a global project. Today, we sequence about a dozen corn genomes a day at a very trivial cost. And so the innovations that have enabled that have come from a broad set of areas. And I think that's part of the story of innovation for all of us, is that biology has been driven by innovations that have come outside, whether that's in fluidics or in computer programming. And the cost of sequencing has hit some dramatic inflections in cost that have actually dramatically outstripped Moore's Law, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. It was about 10 years ago that those two, the cost of sequencing and Moore's Law, were in sync. In the past 10 years, the cost of sequencing has dropped so dramatically, it has enabled us to create new varieties in ways we never anticipated before. Now, genomics is just one example of an innovation story that's important to us. Another example, I think, of where innovation is critically being borrowed from other industries and capabilities are coming in from other industries. I like to think about GE. And we had conversations today as we traveled around the fields about that as an example. But if you've seen the What's the Matter with Owen commercials, some of you probably know, GE's done an amazing job of transforming itself from just an industrial company to the classic now digital industrial company. And they've recognized that if they're going to hire a lot of new people, they've got to go out and actually attract talent in some very new ways. And what GE has done in monitoring engines in real time around the world by embedding sensors in those, to me is very much a model for how we think at Pioneer about the digital opportunity for us. Now we're building, crop growth models that help us predict performance, but ultimately creating an Internet of the farm with sensors, in the ground, in the air, satellite data, enabling us to truly monitor performance of our crop in the annual cycle is a lot like what GE's doing with digital. And so for us, the confluence not of physics and data, but biology and data is really changing what we do. And so we're trying to innovate in new ways. As I said, we've collaborated for a long time with many different groups, but we want to make it easier. And so you'll see out in one of those locations outside the halls, there's a booth for us about an open innovation portal that we've opened. We want to make it easier for people to find us. And so I'd encourage you to talk to some of our colleagues who are here from DuPont Pioneer, take a look at that location. We partner in lots of ways, and our open innovation portal is just the most recent of those. If you go to that site, you're going to see a set of areas that we are talking about today that are top priority areas for us as possible areas of partnering. And I'm going to talk about just a couple of those for a couple of minutes. So the first of those is an enabling technology that most of us know as CRISPR. The ability to edit genomes is absolutely a transformational opportunity for us in crop improvement. And so we're committed we're very interested in collaborating in that area. It's probably not the prime area of interest for most folks in this room, I think, in the tent. But we're very interested in it, and if you have an interest, we'd like to talk to you about it. The technology has applications in a wide range of crops. Some of those we work on, others we're not going to work in. But we can be really great partners, we think, in enabling this technology to be delivered not just in the major row crops, but really importantly in the food crops that consumers are touching every day, and where improvements like better tasting tomatoes or maybe grapes that don't have to be treated with as many pesticides. These are real opportunities for this technology. So come talk to us about genome editing. And of course the other area is the area of digital and applications of digital. And we think about this in the context of what we call predictive agriculture. And so we're working very hard to enable our farmer customers to do what I talked about earlier in this sort of future landscape, where we can understand in real time our products out in the field with those growers based on crop models and machine learning models about a range of crops. And so that vision of an Internet of the farm, right, is a tremendous opportunity for us. And we know that there's a great number of people here, obviously, who are very focused on those kinds of applications. And we're here to talk to you and to work with you. We collaborate with a number of companies already today, and this is an area we've worked in for well over a decade already in driving research with this sort of approach to whether it's genomic data or digital data collected in the field. So I just want to wrap up and reflect for a moment that there's a lot of opportunity in agriculture. We all know that. The issue isn't so much feeding the world. We can feed the world, but the issue is providing consumers with healthier food. From our standpoint, helping farmers produce that food in a more sustainable way to meet what the consumer needs. And so we really have to do that at the same time that we also reduce the environmental footprint of agriculture. And I think one of the big themes around this meeting has always been about doing more with less water, less pesticides, less labor is a really important theme here in Salinas. And these are really important areas of innovation that we think are important to focus on and that, again, we're interested in working with you on. So talk to us. We've got a booth out there. We think this is a time to co-create the future that we have and to build with a lot of innovators around the world together. So we look forward to doing that with you and look forward to the rest of the next day or plus of the meeting. So thanks for your time.